So I'm going to give you a brief outline of our film. So our film is about a maid being kept in a house by the lady of the house in the 1800s. And basically, in the end, we find out that the lady of the house is involved in Wicca, and the maid is being kept as basically a human sacrifice. But I'll get into kind of a more detailed description of our film. Okay, so at the start, we see the maid getting herself ready and preparing the house, so just opening the curtains. Then the lady of the house rings a bell and requests her breakfast. Thus the maid, whilst not daring to look at the lady of the house, she'll be looking down a lot, goes and makes breakfast, serves it. When the lady of the house grabs the maid's wrist to warn her that she's forgotten a part of the breakfast, the audience begins to see that something is slightly creepy with the lady of the house. We then cut to the evening, and the maid is lighting candles, or she's actually blowing out candles, sorry, that's my mistake. And she hears a bang coming from the cellar. Being scared, she eventually goes up to the lady of the house's room, but when the lady of the house doesn't answer, she goes in and sees that the lady is presumably asleep, as there's a lump underneath the bed sheets. The maid then goes down and tries to be brave and tries to open the door. However, she jumps with fright, and hopefully the audience will too. When the lady of the house appears in a doorway next to the cellar, and then she tells off the maid for kind of sneaking around the house at really late hours. It cuts the next day, and after opening the curtains again, the lady of the house appears behind the maid and tells the maid that she wants the maid to be in her quarters by 9 o'clock that night. And then cuts to a shot in the evening of the maid again blowing out some candles, and then we hear the grandfather clock strike 9. So she goes to put out the rest of the candles in the hallway, but then realises that they're all missing from the candelabra, and that's from the table and then the mantelpiece, and then they're also missing from in the dining room. And then we start hearing the banging from the cellar again. So being really, really frightened, the maid runs upstairs to try and wake up the lady of the house. And so she just kind of goes into the lady of the house's room, tries to wake her up. When she tries to wake her up, we realise that the lump in the bed is basically just pillows, so the lady of the house isn't in the bed. So the maid goes running down the stairs, calling out for this lady because she thinks that that both of them might be in danger. But as she comes down, the cellar door is now open, showing the stairs lined with candles, and then a humming can be heard, I don't know if you kind of, when there's a cult and they have this weird humming thing, yeah.
Bells.
Kind of it's a little chanting hum. It's quite strange,
Two
but
bells that just randomly go off.
And then the maid, because of the humming, is in a trance-like state. And so obviously then the audience realise that there's something a little bit kind of otherworldly going on, since the maid is in some trance. And so she goes down into the basement, and then we see the lady of the house coming out of the shadows in the basement. And then what we can see is basically a chair surrounded by loads and loads of candles. So obviously we know where all the candles had gone, when they went missing, basically. And then the lady of the house says something, she's kind of smirking and says something along the lines of, "Oh, didn't I say by 9 o'clock?" And then something along the lines of, "I suppose we'll find out what happens to those who disobey, won't we?" And she proceeds to pull out a ritual knife. And then the film will end with the maid kind of looking in horror and proceeding to almost scream, but we cut before we hear the maid screaming. And yes, she realises, and the audience realises, that she was going to be a human sacrifice, the lady of the house's Wicca beliefs. Okay, so I know that was quite a blur of information, but do you like the sound of the narrative? And what do you possibly like or dislike about it?
And it sounds like I've seen it before.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'd change a few things, perhaps, so it's not so obvious.
Not so kind of cliche.
Yeah, because cellar's always cliche.
Yeah.
So I might do something in the loft, for instance.
Okay.
Or something
Okay.
else, but cellar's always cliche.
Okay. What do you think?
I agree that, yeah, it's sort of it sort of feels as though
it's been done before.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go, we had a questionnaire that we got loads of people to fill out, so I'm going to ask you a few questions from that. So, would you prefer the fear factor of the film to be kind of in the atmosphere that's created, or in more like the jump scares?
Atmosphere.
Okay, cool. How old would you prefer the protagonist? So the protagonist will be the maid. Would you prefer her to be 15 to 18 years old, 19 to 22, or 23 plus?
I'd say if she was in a house working on her own as a maid, she'd have to be 20 plus.
But if we consider that it was set in the 1800s.
I'd say younger.
Yeah.
No.
If we consider that. But, you know, it's up to you what you prefer and what you more connect with as an audience.
I'd sort of say sort of your age, sort of 17, 18.
Okay.
Early 20s.
Early 20s. Okay. Would you prefer the lady of the house to be sadistic / creepy from the start of the film? Or would you prefer her sadistic nature to kind of grow throughout the film, like obviously grow throughout the film? Or for her sadistic nature to be like a sudden realisation? So as in, but when I say sudden realisation, it's kind of when we get down to the basement, we realise that she's kind of like really messed up and she's really sadistic.
There's got to be a surprise element to the film, so...
Yeah.
I'd sort of to create tenser kind of atmosphere is a gradual thing.
Yeah. So we kind of...
But it still leaves a bit of doubt in the people watching it.
So like we know she's kind of creepy, but we don't really know what it is until the end when we're like, geez. Okay, question was that. Okay. So from the questionnaire, our audience kind of decided or felt that they only wanted parts of the antagonist to be seen. So by that I kind of mean maybe like a shot of her hands, a shot of her mouth, or a shot of her legs, like just for the first part of the film. So how do you feel about this, and why would you enjoy or not enjoy this, as opposed to seeing the entirety of the lady of the house, like?
You could do it. I think you'd be better off taking a picture of their eyes rather than anything else.
What, like filming the eyes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we could do that.
Hands don't give anything away.
But if you do like the hands and you do like tapping of the...
Maybe. I
suppose that could
think
be
the eyes can be a bit more...
Yeah, if we do distinct things, so maybe like while she's speaking, film her mouth, like just her mouth, because we kind of felt like I wanted to keep her a bit of an enigma, so it's a little bit more like, ooh, who the hell's that? You know what I mean? Okay, and at the end of the film, would you prefer a complete cliffhanger, or would you prefer an ending that's kind of, it's a very self-explanatory ending, basically?
You're better off with some kind of cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger's usually more exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean...
The maid pulls out of a gun.
Yeah.
That's the cliffhanger.
I mean, from what I was saying about how kind of an initial idea for the film was to have her kind of about to scream, but then we cut it off. Is that too less of a cliffhanger? Would you prefer something a lot more kind of like, kind of challenging?
Challenging.
More challenging. Okay. Right, so now I'm going to move on to our poster, because we have to do 2 ancillary tasks with it. So for our poster, it'll be a shot, well, our idea is a shot from behind the maid as she's looking out of a window, and surrounding her will be like low-key lighting, so the only source of light is coming from the window. What do you think about this idea, and what do you like or dislike about it? It's quite basic, but if you could try and picture in your head... And
you'd have to have something else. It depends what else on the poster, because as such it doesn't say anything.
No, exactly.
It doesn't say much. What do you think we could...
It conveys the idea of her being in the house.
Kind of like a sense of entrapment, or...
Yeah, but it can possibly give mixed messages, because I'm always thinking that when you have somebody standing at a window, they're looking out, and it might be because they're trapped, or it might be because they're, longing for something else. It doesn't necessarily give much,
So if you saw it, you'd basically be like, what the hell is that about? And not be that interested.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Okay. Then I'll just ask you a few questions from the questionnaire. So would you prefer, because obviously that was just our idea, but then we also made a questionnaire so other people could have their input. Would you prefer to just see the maid, just the lady of the house, or both on the poster?
Well, if you're trying to not show the antagonist, the woman, then you probably just need to have the maid on the poster.
Yeah. Okay. And if the maid were to be on the poster, would you prefer her to be at a long shot so we see quite a lot of her body, at a medium shot so we see about here to here of her body, or more of a close-up shot so it's more just like the head and neck?
Well, I don't know, I'm thinking up to the waist, that sort of thing.
So is that possibly so you can see like who she is, like from her clothes, but also see like expression things?
But the expression could be possibly, I was thinking, like a hand that she's reaching for the window or something like that.
Okay.
Because then you know she's just not thinking. There's some kind of stress or something.
Yeah.
You'd need more than just a headshot to show she's a maid, wouldn't she?
Yeah,
unless she's wearing a bonnet or something of that nature.
So probably more like a medium shot / a long shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Would you prefer to see characters only, or would you prefer maybe some iconography or key images from the film in the poster as well? So possibly like, say as a key image, candles or something, because obviously there's like the scene with that bit in it.
Oh, you might. You'd need something else if you just had the maid in it, something else.
Yeah, so added images like from the film.
Some added image, yeah.
Yeah, but not an overload, just like a few.
You've got to keep it like a mystery, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely.
So you want it to be, as you say, enigmatic.
Yeah. And would you prefer the poster to be kind of like obviously promoting a film of the horror genre, or would you prefer it maybe to kind of just display little hints of horror? As in, maybe it looks like quite not an upbeat thing, but you kind of don't really see anything particularly creepy with the poster at first, but when you look deeper into it, you see, I don't know, like blood dripping from the candles, or like a figure somewhere, like a dark figure watching over.
I think you'd have to make it a little bit dark so that people, when they looked at it, thought, well...
Just straight away, no.
They know it's the sort of something that's going to be...
Yeah.
Without giving too much away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's so much if you look at Netflix, if you...
Yeah, if it's like...
If the picture's very important.
Yeah,
that's true.
To go onto the film, and if it's a picture of a couple of gnomes...
and Romeo and Juliet.
You ain't going to necessarily think, gosh, I'm in the mood for a horror, I better move on. There's blood coming down the gnomes' faces, obviously. And one of them's got their head taken off.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to our radio advert. So our radio advert will last for about 30 to 40 seconds. We're thinking have a dissonant score, which is basically has no kind of set melody or anything to it. It's kind of just like different sounds and things. I'll place that underneath, but we'll have moments where we call it stings. So you know when like the music just like really suddenly gets really loud, or there's like a massive like loud sound, and that will kind of highlight maybe like important bits, because we'll also have a voiceover, and he or she who's doing the voiceover will give like a brief kind of overview of like a summary of the narrative. We'll also add in some dialogue from the film, and also possibly some like other diegetic sounds, so footsteps or heavy breathing, or maybe the grandfather clock in there striking. And the voiceover would finally kind of conclude in informing the audience where and when they can watch the film, and then the score will gradually fade out. So even though this is quite basic, what kind of do you like about it, dislike about it, or just any thoughts about it?
I think it's quite hard to make a radio advert for a horror film, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's my first thoughts. It would...
Do you like the addition of maybe like the score, because it will be quite like a dissonant thing?
I think
so
you'd have to have
more-
the score in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of Alfred Hitchcock-like.
Yeah.
In some ways, the score's very important, but it is very hard. I mean, radio and a radio advert would be a lot of trial and error to get something that would fit.
Yeah.
In visuals, where you pick pieces out
Yeah.
and then put the music in as well and a bit of dialogue, is a hell of a lot easier than a radio score. It's
Yeah.
I can't recall a horror advert on the radio.
Okay. I'll go through some of the questionnaire questions. So, obviously that was just our initial idea, but again, we've given the questionnaire out so people can have their own say, especially like our target audience. So, would you like a voiceover given the basic outline of the film? Even though, because...
There'd have to be something. It would be...
Yeah.
Something in the shadows lurks, whatever, something that just...
Maybe even something like giving a tagline or something like that. Yeah, okay. Do you have any input?
But then...
Not on this one, I don't think.
Okay. Would you prefer the advert to be underlaid by an atonal score, which is kind of a score that has like a melody or would you prefer the dissonant score where it doesn't have a set melody or anything or a set rhythm?
There needs to be a rhythm of it, I think.
Do you think so?
Pace of some sort, even if it's disturbing,
kind of like a creepy,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And also with that, if we wanted the atonal score, what kind of like instruments would you like to hear? Because I know when you watch horrors, there are obviously set instruments that like trigger people's kind of like fear factor. So maybe violin, piano.
Well, cello in a way, depending on how it's played, yeah.
Yeah.
Glockenspiel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll get my tambourine out as well. Okay, is that okay? I'll move on. Would you like the protagonists, so the maid and the antagonist, the lady of the house's voice to be heard, or not at all?
In the film?
In the radio advert?
I wouldn't know. You'd be in a radio advert.
You've got to just put something in.
But would you kind of like audio? Would you like audio clips of them speaking from the film? Would you like to have that added into the radio advert?
Probably, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I just feel it depends how much you want to give away, really.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. And kind of leading on from that, would you like to hear diegetic sound from the film, i.e., like the footsteps or the clock striking and things like that? Do you think that would be interesting? Would that kind of grab your attention?
What in
the radio advert? This is all radio advert.
To be honest with you, I think I'd prefer more sounds.
More sounds than speaking?
Than speaking.
Yeah?
To create the mystery.
Yeah. What about you?
You've got to create a sense of tension, whether it's through the music or sounds.
Music and sounds, I think.
Okay. And finally, which radio station do you tune into the most? Is it more national radio, so like BBC radio, etc., or like more local channels?
Probably more local channels.
More local?
More national.
More national. Okay.
More sport. More talk sport.
Yeah.
More football.
What kind of channels do you specifically enjoy? So I know you enjoy sport. Yeah.
Talk sport.
That doesn't create tension. I don't know what it does.
Yeah, just add it in. What about you? What kind of things do you listen to? What kind of...
Generally music.
But as in...
Radio 4.
What kind of... Radio 4? Is that a good one?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of channels do you listen to specifically?
Smooth radio.
Is that national? Or...
Radio 4 drama is very good.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
2:15 every day. Very good.
A quick shout out.
Quick shout out for Radio 4.
They'll have to pay you soon. Advertising. Okay, and that concludes our focus group. Thank you for coming. Goodbye.
Goodbye.